So what should she do? Well, let's apply the responses that we have for conflict. If she avoids it, Miss C walks away feeling frustrated and powerless. Miss P also feels frustrated because it doesn't matter what she says, and because Mrs. S won't revise it. So every party here is frustrated, which does not lead to a great resolution. However, if she dominates or competes to tell the charge nurse, Miss S, that the assignment is unacceptable, Miss P feels contrite. She knows that she has intimidated the charge nurse, but she has no time to deal with the issues that the nursing staff members should be able to resolve themselves. Well, it doesn't really resolve a conflict, does it? Or she can try to have Miss C accept the assignment to accommodate the charge nurse, Mrs. S. Mrs. P knows that Mrs. J is very difficult to work with and that Mrs. C's assignment is very heavy. Mrs. P tells C that she appreciates her being on the team player and she'll remember her in the future. The other thing that could happen is compromise. She can compromise her concerns with the charge nurse, Mrs. S, so that she can try to find an expedient, mutual acceptable solution. Mrs. C is hopeful. Mrs. P is providing Mrs. S with rationale for why the assignment should be modified. Mrs. P will encourage both Mrs. C and Mrs. S to reach out to Mrs. J and work out a middle ground for both nurses to be happy, which seems a little more reasonable. Now, this is using the method of compromise. Now let's look at collaboration. She can integrate or collaborate with both the charge nurse, Mrs. S, and the nurse, Mrs. J, to reach an acceptable assignment for all parties involved. Mrs. P feels empowered. Initially, it is very difficult, but working together with Mrs. C, Mrs. S, Mrs. J, an assignment was made that was acceptable and safe. The approach she uses to manage the conflict will influence the delivery of patient and limit her experiences to work out stress.